One of the things that I learned in the time frame I've been doing this channel that I wouldn't have known before doing this channel, it has to do with my association with other people. Meaning, you put out content and there's a sea of people that latch on to the wavelength that you're putting out. And I realize within the context of that wavelength, I have Trump supporters, I have Sanders supporters, and I have a few that watch, even though I don't necessarily fully understand what they're latching on to. My point is this. There were Trump supporters who, even though the left was like, we can't get along with them, we don't understand them, etc., they would be shocked to find out that anti-war, many of them are anti-war. When Alex Jones did that video piece where he is flipping out because Donald Trump bombed Syria, he was doing that because his audience was reflecting that point of view. Now, you may say Alex Jones also had that point of view. Maybe, maybe not. I think Alex Jones is an actor, but either case, he was doing that because the audience reflected this view that was decidedly anti-war. My point is this. There are similarities here. In this very specific context. I know people who are Sanders supporters who voted for Trump specifically with this notion of anti-war. Now, early on in this channel, I made this point that the anti-war thing seems to stop at the shores of Iran. But in other cases, especially in Syria, there was this feeling that Clinton was going to get us involved into a conflict with Russia. I had that feeling. I even had conversations with Clinton supporters where I made the point, what if she shoots down a Russian jet? Oh, Putin's not going to do anything. He's not going to do anything. Donald Trump has put the question, are you trying to have war with Iran? And he's put this question to somebody who seems to be decidedly anti-war and bothered greatly by Trump's provocations. Let's hear Trump's answer. Welcome to the Soapbox. So Donald Trump is on Fox News, and Donald Trump, that's the only place Donald Trump goes, and in safe havens, safe territory, his safe space, one of the reporters, I don't know this particular gentleman, one of the reporters is asking him a question about war with Iran. And the very specific question boils down to this notion of interventionists. You said during your campaign that you weren't going to get involved in these interventionist wars, that you weren't going to do this. This was something that you weren't going to do, that you were a step apart from the typical Republican that is ready to bomb and get involved in large-scale conflicts. Donald Trump, during this interview, pushed back on this to some degree, saying, I haven't changed. I haven't changed. I haven't changed. Now, I have multiple feelings about this interview. One is Trump's understanding of history is comically ridiculous. That's the first point. The second point, though, is there seems to be two trains of thought, and both can be true. An earnestness in this notion of, I don't want to be involved in these foreign wars. With the second thread of playing to his audience. Meaning, playing to the person in the room. The guy's asking him questions, and the guy seems to have a perspective about foreign policy that is decidedly non-interventionist. And he has a channel or whatever, but this point is, that's his perspective of things. And his perspective is he latched on to Trump, and his audience latched on to Trump for that reason. And he's rattled by Trump's provocations. So is Trump feeding off the audience, in this case meaning the interviewer? Maybe. But by the same token, Trump has a history of saying things about getting troops out of those countries. So if I'm being fair, I can say he's squeezed Venezuela and Iran in ways that killed multiple people or caused the deaths of tens of thousands of human beings. And we don't even know what that number is in Iran, and they've been experiencing floods. By the same token, he didn't get us into large-scale wars. It's that twist of both. Donald Trump has asked whether or not he's trying to get involved into a war in Iran. Listen to his answer. I am going to intervene in some of this because some of this is absurd. But some of it, to give him the benefit of the doubt, may be true. Let's hear him out.
Have nuclear weapons.
I want to read you something Lindsey Graham said.
Okay.
Your friend Lindsey Graham.
Yes.
He was
in a magazine profile, and he reported on a conversation he had with you, and he said that you said to him, the trouble with you, Lindsay, is you want to invade everywhere except the places I want to invade.
Well,
so my question is, where does he want to invade? But more importantly, where do you want to invade?
I want to invade if I have to economically. We've created a much stronger country economically than when I took it over. When I took it over, we were heading south. Our GDP would have been very negative.
America is a capitalist country. That capitalist country has been running around the world trying to browbeat countries to not buy products from its competitors. It's astonishing. It's literally trying to protect American companies from foreign products that may be of better quality and cheaper, meaning Huawei, or in some cases the Russian missile defense system, the S-4, S-500, whatever number they're on. We've been doing that around the world. That's an astonishing thing. Think about that. This capitalist nation trying to hold back innovation from competitors. Astonishing, astonishing. Now, don't get me wrong, they wouldn't code it in that way, but ultimately, we're in this kind of trade war where Donald Trump, and in a geopolitical sense, is trying to restrain China. Bannon talks about it all the time. The Democratic Party is no better. The Trans-Pacific Partnership was supposed to do the exact same thing. That's Obama's Asia pivot. Hillary Clinton talks about ringing China around with missiles. That is literally what Donald Trump has been doing also. And you thought you got a new candidate.
Regulations didn't allow you to do. You know, yesterday, as you probably saw, I was in Louisiana, opening up a $10 billion LNG plant that would have never been approved under another type of administration, never. And now you have 10,000 people working there, $10 billion they invested. We have tremendous power things economically. That's the way I want it.
So you can reassure people you're not looking for some kind of conflict in Iran. And
well, I'm the one that talks about these wars that are 19 years and people are just there. And don't kid yourself.
Also, let's not kid yourself. Whatever credit you want to bestow on Donald Trump is precipitating deaths in the various countries by the sanctions that he's passing on these countries. We are utterly and entirely alone in the world on the Iran issue. That should give you pause. That should give you some level of, well, maybe he's wrong on this issue, because he is wrong on this issue. Listen who's whispering in his ear. And if you want to look around for allies, you have Israel, which is an apartheid state, literally, and you have Saudi Arabia, a totalitarian religious fiefdom of sorts, where these guys just beheaded 30-something people and deboned the journalists and lied to the world about it. These are our allies, both of which are ready to fight to the blood of the last dead American in some attack on Iran. It's like you look around. You don't have any of your allies. The world is utterly sick of Americans, this kind of foreign policy, this bully foreign policy. It's astonishing, in all honesty. But this is, let's let him finish. I'm just saying, this is a very different scenario than Iraq. And whatever Donald Trump wants to say here about not winning war, he precipitated this. He precipitated all of this. This was all him. The rest of the world was staunchly on board for this deal. Donald Trump is the one that unilaterally pulled out this deal. I want this to be very, very clear. The problems that Iran is having right now is of his making. The tension that is created here is of his making. All of this is of Trump's making. Whatever Trump has to say here, he is entirely responsible for what is taking place.
Do have a military-industrial complex. They do like war. In Syria with the caliphate. So I wipe out 100% of the caliphate. That doesn't mean you're not going to have these crazy people going around blowing up stores and blowing up things. These are seriously ill people. I don't want to say, oh, they're wiped out, ISIS.
Donald Trump didn't wipe out 90% of the terrorists. In fact, Donald Trump was protecting the terrorists. If you look at Tulsi Gabbard's speeches, she gets up there and saying how pissed off she is. She does it in the most monotone, rational, uber rational way. But she makes the point that, I fought for this country, and now you have us out here protecting terrorists in Idlib province. 40% of the people, with 30,000 people in that country were terrorists. In that little area were terrorists. Don't take my word for it. Take the UN's word for it. They said it. Trump was protecting these people. These are the people that were being used as a battering ram to take down Bashar al-Assad. Let's keep going. But, and by the way, also, it wasn't him. Russia, Syria, Iran are the ones, with the United States' help, don't get me wrong, but it's their territory, or it's Bashar al-Assad's territory. They were the ones that were getting rid of the terrorists, and the United States was bitching all along the way. So let's also be clear on reality here.
But I wiped out 100% of the caliphate. I said, I want to bring our troops back home. The place went crazy. They want to keep, you have people here in Washington, they never want to leave. I said, you know what I'll do? I'll leave a couple of hundred soldiers behind. But if it was up to them, they'd bring thousands of soldiers in.
That's true. That is entirely true. If you look back at the media during the time when Donald Trump says, I'm going to bring my troops from Afghanistan and Syria, what did they do? They screamed at the top of their lungs, oh my God! I told you he was a Putin puppet. Cenk Uygur looking into the camera. You know, he's in the shower when he heard it, and he had to do a video immediately. I told you he was a Putin puppet. He's bringing our troops home. It's not that I don't necessarily like that, but he's bringing our troops home. It's Vladimir Putin telling them what to do. Like, this is the nonsense. This is the hysteria that we were dealing with during that time. And so what did Trump do? Like you said, all right, I'll leave some. Not leave some. Because all of them went ballistic. Not only did they call him a Putin puppet, not only did they say he's doing this because of Vladimir Putin, they smeared him for this. If you remember, there were articles that a lefty read and be like, oh, good. Because it gave you a behind the scenes that he actually does want to get the troops out. All I'm saying is this. It does seem like there's a strain of him that wants to do that. And he is also right in saying that Washington flipped out when he tried. They flipped out. At the end of the day, Trump gets the last word. But keep in mind, Donald Trump getting in office, wanting to be more conciliatory towards Russia, was one of the things that propagated the counterintelligence case against him. Listen to McCabe. The things that Donald Trump was saying made them suspicious of him. Now, part of that was the hysteria that was being created by the Democrats, but that's the way they looked at it. All I'm saying is he's right about this part. There is a foreign military-industrial complex. The catch is, though, Donald Trump is using this to dodge the question that was asked about Iran. This notion that, oh, I don't want them to get a nuclear bomb. Israel has a nuclear bomb. Why is it the United States' responsibility to stop a country from getting a nuclear bomb? And by the way, the reason that they're trying to get that nuclear bomb is because they're terrified of the United States. The thought is, if we get a nuclear bomb, they can't attack us. But let's understand the provocation for this is the United States. Let's keep going.
Someday people will explain it.
Well, this is an example.
You do have a group, and they call it the military-industrial complex. They never want to leave. They always want to fight. No, I don't want to fight. But you do have situations like Iran. You can't let them have nuclear weapons. You just can't let that happen.
So that's an example, I think, of what people liked in 2016, where you didn't come over as a traditional
changed.
Republican.
No, but
right?
I haven't changed.
And that,
well, take a look.
That's what we.
All right, I'm gonna let him finish this.
Talk about on our show the popular. I just want to go through a couple of.
I gave the generals. I said, go ahead. You got 1 year. See what you can do in Afghanistan. So they fight and fight and fight. But, you know, we've taken it way down in Afghanistan. I don't know if you've seen that, Steve. We've taken it way down. Now, it's a rough place. It's a bad place. A lot of bad things happen. The World Trade Center bombers were sort of, that's like the Harvard University of terrorism, okay? If you want to be a terrorist, you go over there, okay? But, no, I have not changed.
So it depends on what he means by changed. Because, let's be clear, no one had a clear understanding of what Donald Trump was. Meaning, yes, he was a loudmouth. Yes, he was gross. Yes, he was going to go with this notion of, Republican orthodoxy to some degree. But, and even that part is somewhat unclear. We had no idea what Donald Trump was going to do when he got in that office. And that was the most terrifying aspect of electing Donald Trump. There was parts of me that hoped, like nobody's business, that Trump would get into that office and would be something different. But instead, he aligned himself with the most hard right people that he could find, Pompeo and Bolton. And to some degree, if I'm being honest, I even think that some of this choice was inspired by the Democrats pushing so hard on the Russia stuff. He needed to reflexively push back, and he looked for the hardest neocons that he could find to show that there is no daylight in a sense of him being hostile towards Russian interests. So let's be clear. You don't hire Bolton and shock that Bolton is trying to drag you into a war. Like, you don't hire somebody who said we're going to be celebrating in Tehran and then say the strategy is not regime change. The strategy is regime change. You just don't want to do it with a war. That's the catch. If Donald Trump is saying, I haven't changed, I still don't want to get into a war, and in his head, sanctions are not an act of war, despite the number of people that die because of them, well, technically, I guess, you can say in his mind he hasn't changed. But in some degree, I guess you can say he's right because nobody knew what Trump's mind was. It seems the consistent thing is, I don't want land wars. That's in either Venezuela or that's in Iran. And again, the reports show him dressing down Bolton because he thought Bolton was ratcheting up tensions too high, too fast. Now, the catch here, though, is what is Bolton to do? I mean, at the end of the day, anything that takes place has to take place within the context of like a year. And I think when Donald Trump says, I told my generals do X, I suspect he does the same thing with either Iran or Venezuela, assigning it to a person and then, having these updates almost like a manager dealing with the stuff. The problem here is that Bolton is a maniac and a psychopath. And if you're putting him in charge of that, and there are actual people that are dying because of the policies that you're implementing, A, you didn't have to ratchet up tensions with Iran. B, the rest of the world is not on board with this, meaning you're entirely and utterly alone. Pompeo going to Brussels and being told to kick rocks got that across more than anything else. C, the world is not on board for another Iraq 2.0. It is clear as day. This is a different environment. The world is not on board for Iraq 2.0. And we have no idea how those other nations will respond to something like that. Like, I swear to God, that is a breaking of a trend of sorts. Meaning, Donald Trump has done something that you should never do. He's positioned America's, you can say, well, what the word I'm looking for? Reputation of sorts on intractable issues. Issues that people can't budge on. There's no saving face in these issues. And if the people can't save face in their own countries, then you're not going to get them to budge on it. Doesn't matter what takes place in their countries within this regard. They have political interests that they have to deal with themselves. No country has this kind of one-man ruler per se. All of these countries have hardliners in their own countries. China included. The denigration of the Chinese by the Trump administration has been atrocious. And, they were these guys stealing our property, forced theft, all this other stuff. This denigration with this notion of trying to get the American audience to be on their side within the context of this trade war. Because what they know is Americans are going to have to pay higher prices for the products that are imported or that are either bought in-house or as the tariffs are translated into the prices themselves. And so he need you to be able to pay for a higher price, at the very least with this notion of, okay, I'm helping in some way. And the Chinese have been doing something. And they've been doing something. Has Trump changed? Every person changes to some degree based on the environment, right? So I guess you could say in his mind, maybe not, because he didn't get us involved in any kind of massive land wars like the last two presidents. I suppose that's a low bar, but it's a bar that the other two presidents haven't been able to necessarily climb. By the same token, there's an element of this that's worse. Again, Iran is not going to come to any kind of agreement with the United States. You've broken the agreement. They can't do that. Politically, they can't do that. So you've put them in a position where they can't negotiate with you. Like in one case after the next. In the case of China, you've put them in a position where they can't negotiate with you because of all the things that you said about China, as if they're somehow lesser than. That is going to be the strongest economy on the planet. I mean, just by number of size alone. And you're trying to stop that economy from essentially growing to what it grows to. And Venezuela, same thing. Maduro is not leaving Venezuela. I'm sorry, he's not leaving. In one case after the next, the United States has positioned itself in a position where the opposition can't pivot. They can't do anything. And ultimately, what they're going to end up doing is just waiting Trump out with this notion that Trump is going to lose. And if Trump loses in a year and a half, it's going to be a bust. Not to mention, Trump is going to be running an election with foreign policy that is shady. I'm just saying this is a recipe for disaster. That's all. Has he changed? It's hard to know. Is he going to attack Iran? Again, it's hard to know. Trump can be put into situations that he has no control over as president of the United States. If Bolton comes back and say, hey, we have intelligence that Iran is going to attack, whatever, what is Trump going to do? Is he going to doubt the intelligence, or is he going to act on the intelligence? If he acts on the intelligence, who knows if the intelligence is real when the people involved in the process have something to gain in the process? So all of this is not within the context of the president's control, especially if something happens, hits media, and it snowballs. What is Trump going to do? Trump has shown his penchant for just launching off missile strikes, whether or not he knows the reality of the situation. This is kind of my point here. This is extraordinarily dangerous. And whatever the president wants is almost secondary to what may take place with the forces in that region and with all of that focus in that region of the world. Not to mention independent actors who they always assign Iran to blame for. So, all right. This one has gone way, way too long, but I hope it's informative. Come on. Jimmy from Philly. On my way to Trump Valley in Pennsylvania now. Okay. Do you, boo. Do your thing, man. David Kapoor. Thank you, David Kapoor. I appreciate your help. Guys, all help to the channel is appreciated. You guys help this show keep it moving. I'm going to end this one because I still have like one or two more that I want to do before we finish. All right. All right. Yeah, it was. Anna Summers. Iran was on that list General Clark was given a decade ago. Yes. Wesley Clark. I've done that video so many times because it's prescient. He's like, Democratic or Republican administrations, they're going to go through all these countries and they're going to run. How does the media see that video and not make any correlation? Yet this is why I always ask, are they incompetent or are they lying to us? Which one is it? And I don't always necessarily know. You always leave the moment I comment. Always. What do you mean always? Nothing happened always. And I don't even always see your comment. All right, I'm going to end this. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through PayPal or Patreon. Thanks all. This.